Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra,
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people.
associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked.
and sometimes what didn't,
You will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts.
And inspire you to do even greater things. Today, you're going to meet Zafar Ahmed, technology executive and principal consultant with PM Power Consulting. He shares his career journey, nearly 4 decades long, as a four innings match, one very well built over the previous one. He also shares some of his key defining moments and decisions that he has taken, some of the learnings he's had, and what he's going to do from a long term perspective, and what has been his challenges over his career. And there are also goosebump moments. Listen on. Hi, Zafar. Thank you for participating in the Software People Stories today. A warm welcome to you.
Good morning, Gayatri. I'm very excited and it's my pleasure and very happy to be part of this podcast on software people story.
And being your first podcast ever, I want to get you started. Where did your software journey get started?
Sure. Thanks for asking this because that could also serve as a short or maybe a little long intro. So I was born in Jamshedpur, the steel city, brought up and studied in Patna. My first job was in Jamshedpur, followed by jobs in Delhi, Minneapolis, Chicago. Finally, I landed in Bangalore and decided not to move again. So far, so good. Having been in Bangalore since 2000 and regret not knowing Kannada yet, resolved to learn 100 Kannada words in 2020. I have a degree in electrical engineering, supported by a bunch of training and certification in software engineering discipline. I think I was quite fortunate to have got my first job in information technology at Tata Steel. I fall in love with the software engineering and never looked at any other discipline. I started in 1981 with Tata Steel, so around 39 years of experience in software industry, during which I got opportunity to play several roles, starting from software developer to project manager, consultant, engineering leader, mentor, and coach for teams of a startup to Fortune 500 organizations. I like to see my career as a 4 innings of a cricket test match. You would hear cricket many times because I love cricket, right? So
Okay.
4 inning of a test match and the current phase being the fourth inning, right? So let me traverse you through all these 4 innings a little bit. The first inning was the first 10 years of my career, starting as a programmer with Tata Steel in 1981 and concluding as a senior consultant with JK Technosoft in Delhi. The 8 years tenure at Tata Steel has been the best learning phase for me, having been part of Tata Steel's transformational journey from IBM 1401 system to Burroughs mainframe to end user computing using minis, PCs, utilizing open system software, Unix, C, Oracle, all those things, right? Very satisfying tenure of 8 years. My second inning was from 1990 to 2000, during which I worked for software consulting companies in the US. During this period, I mostly consulted with Fortune 500 companies and assisted them in developing system for business intelligence, data warehousing, and e-commerce space. I relocated back to India in 2000 and commenced my third inning, I would say. I worked for Hughes, Harrison, and Harman between 2000 to 2017. During this phase, I was largely responsible for leading large engineering teams, managing delivery, and ensuring customer satisfaction for our clients, global clients. In addition, as a change leader, I led several organizational initiatives towards engineering excellence, CMMI, TL 9000, and also institutionalizing agile methods at Ascent. And that's where, I got exposed to Agile, and we will talk more about it later. My fourth inning began in 2016 and it's going strong. This inning is a departure from previous 9 to 9, 60 hours a week job. This phase of my professional life is the continuation of transformation journey that got started around 12 years ago. The transformation from a manager to a leader. I wanted to share my learning, my experience, my successes and failure with the software fraternity. And to pursue this mission, I joined PM Power in the mid of 2018. Currently, I'm engaged with the startups as well as large corporates as an advisor, consultant, a coach. So that's all about my professional life. I also wanted to share my personal life a little bit. I'm blessed with a beautiful wife, a homemaker, and two kids, one daughter and a son. Both are software engineer. I did not push them into software, but they decided to pursue software career. Me and my son have switched roles recently. Now my son is the guardian of the family, and he has asked me to take a back seat. So I'm enjoying this phase of my professional as well as personal life.
Wow, what a fantastic journey, and the way you're talking about it across various phases as a cricket innings. I can truly see your other side in terms of passion for golf and cricket. Can you elaborate more around what is it that about software that you're very passionate about?
If I look at the software, the thing that makes me most inspired as well as passionate about this field is the ever-changing landscape of the technology. I don't think possibly there is any other discipline or domain, that has undergone so much of changes than the software and related technology. And that's what is fascinating to me, right? It is changing. It's changing every day. It has changed in the last 40 years, and if we have time, we can talk about it, right? As to how what kind of changes the decade of 1980 saw, what kind of decade 1990, then 2000 and 2010. So I have reflected many times around it, right? But on the is changing, and the only constant is a change, as we all know, right? It is fascinating, as well as on the other hand, it is scary. And it is scary because you could become obsolete very, very fast, very, very fast, right? Long ago, I remember one quote, and I live by that almost every day. To my horror, when I would wake up in the morning tomorrow, what I learned yesterday would be obsolete.
Very nicely put. Encapsulates software in a true sense.
So true, isn't it? Yeah.
In terms of understanding where you are and continue to keep running, and that is itself is an excitement in itself. I've never heard anybody say this, Zafar, truly, in terms of saying how rapidly it changes, and that itself is a race, and that is an excitement by itself, rather than looking at it and saying, okay, am I having self doubts on myself, or can I learn, can I do that? I think that is a very different way of looking at it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the technology has been changing ever since it was introduced. And I think every time you think that, oh, this maybe this thing will settle down, something new will come, right? And that will disrupt, what you knew, what you have been practicing, what you have been doing, and for better.
Very well put. Question for you is that what motivated you to move from US to India? Because we hear this as a dilemma from many of our listeners. Think, when is the right time, and at what point in your career do you want to shift? Because a lot of my friends, colleagues, and our own followers are saying, "Hey, I want to come back to my country." Are there opportunities? How did you make that decision?
Well, a couple of things happened. One, I never moved to the US, to live there forever. Okay. The prime motivation for going to the US was to get exposed to a variety of software industry, the technology, different culture, right? And in fact, I to pursue that, I left Tata Steel and I joined a software services organization, JK Technosoft, right, who are into software development for multinationals, right? And in that process, I relocated to the US, right? But I knew that it could be 10 years, it could be 15 years, right? But finally, I'll come back, right? And in 2000, when I returned, definitely the trigger was some personal reasons, right? I could have stayed there for 5 years. I was very comfortable. I had bought a house. I was running a startup company which was doing very well. So the trigger was personal, right? But it was also supported by the fact that India, in terms of information technology and software, they were growing, right? At the dawn of that decade, right? All the software services company who were doing primarily maintenance, kind of work, Infosys, TCS, Hughes, right? They took a leapfrog in terms of the kind of work they would be doing, right? And the potential of Indian software professionals, and the whole industry, right? That was, proven, and more work and better work, was coming to India. So the growing opportunities in India at that time also supported my decision to relocate, right? And I made one good decision. I have not made too many good decisions, but the decision to move to India was good, and the decision to come to Bangalore was equally good. You would be surprised to know that I had visited Bangalore only for 2 days before that, right? I never lived in Bangalore. I didn't have any family or friend circle, right? But that's the beauty of the city, right? It welcomes, everybody, right? It's a very cosmopolitan city and a lot of opportunity.
And it's also a fraternity, right? This is the fraternity of software folks who are almost from every part of the country, and they support each other through problems, through challenges, ups and downs. So
Absolutely, absolutely fantastic place, right? So this was definitely a defining moment in my personal and professional life.
So, talking about defining moments, right? What are some of your defining moments if you look back at your career?
There are many, Gayatri, and definitely, I would like to share a few of them if time permits, because each one has some message hidden in it, right? As to how my career got shaped, right? And I'm pretty sure that listeners would be interested. So, if I look at, let's say, 4 or 5 defining moment, in fact, joining IT domain itself was a huge defining moment, right? And let me tell you why. See, looking back, I believe my starting a career in IT was a mix of wish, luck, and serendipity. Okay. So there was the element of wish, but definitely it was good luck also, right? Why? Because I did BTech in electrical engineering. Okay. I had interest in computer and software, but I did not have any background or skills, right? The couple of things I knew was the Fortran and COBOL were computer languages, and IBM was the biggest computer manufacturer. And I knew about IBM because IBM was in the news in India in late 70s, having this asked to close operations, right? That was around 77 or so. So I knew, oh, there is a computer giant called IBM. So just after passing out, I was applying for various jobs, typically electricity board. I was electrical engineer, another public sector, right? BHEL and SAIL, another Indian Oil. And one day I saw an ad in the newspaper. Tata Steel's needs programmers. I still remember that ad. I may have that somewhere. The eligibility criteria was BTech in computer science, computer engineering, as well as electrical engineering. Okay. So I was eligible. Okay. I weighed my options and then I told to myself, let me give this my best shot. Okay. I like this field. Let me give this my best shot. If I don't get it, I don't get it. I prepared tirelessly for the interview, got selected, joined Tata Steel, fell in love with computer and software, and as I said, never looked in any other direction. So There is a saying in Urdu literature. Okay, I will read in Urdu first, then I'll try to translate. You may have heard this. It says, "अगर किसी चीज को दिल से चाहो, तो पूरी कायनात तुम्हें उससे मिलाने की कोशिश में लग जाती है." The meaning is that if you wish something from the heart, the entire universe tries to make your wish fulfilled. And in retrospect, I think that was so true in my case.
So very true, yeah. Because in all our endeavors, if we really not have this self-doubt and not saying, okay, what are the naysayers saying and stuff, just say, this is something that I really, really want. Cosmos or universe, how do we actually conspires to make it happen? Very well put, Zafar. Any other defining moments that you want to share with us?
Yes, definitely. I mentioned about moving from in-house IT department to software consulting, right? And then going to the US, that was definitely a defining moment. Coming back to India, I mentioned about that. That was a defining moment. In my personal career, transitioning from a techie to a business focused leader was another defining moment, right? I mentioned to you that in Tata Steel, right, it was a huge, learning phase, right? And I was really technology geek, right? I would love to experiment, and tear the thing apart, right? I would I want to master this, right? Whether it is COBOL or C or databases or Oracle, right? But when I started working as director engineering for Hughes software, right, my role changed to managing, right? Earlier, it was mix of managing as well as individual contributor. In the US also, I was technical project manager. I will manage project as well as I will contribute technically, right? Technology, evaluation, selection, design, prototype. But in Hughes, the role was all managing team, managing delivery, managing customer, right? So it was different, right? And the scale was different. Whatever I had managed earlier, the scale was much bigger here. So I had to first like this, right? Transform myself and then adapt to demands of this role. Okay. I had to leave behind the techie in me, right? And transform to a manager and a leader, right? Once I did that, I started enjoying my role. But that was definitely a defining moment. And then the next one was my experiment with Agile, how my Agile journey started. That is a true defining moment, and then how the transformations have happened, right? And let me share how it happened, right?
Yeah, I'm interested to hear that story, Zafar. Being an agilist for a long time, I always find it very intriguing for different people who have got started in agile and having done agile also in a very different way.
Yes, and I would be honest, okay? See, necessity is the mother of invention. Okay, we all know, especially when you work for software consulting companies, software services companies, you are dictated by the needs of your clients, right? You can't dictate your term, right? So as the luck would have had it, got exposed to Agile, it was in around 2009 or so. I was the engineering head at Aricent, and we signed up with Ericsson, okay, to establish a large development center for their multimedia business at Aricent, right? So a couple of hundred people, right? And as you know, Ericsson has been a pioneer in practicing Agile, right? Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if they are at 9, okay, we were starting at 1 or 2. Okay.
Okay.
So, and we needed to form a team, which could match up to their expectation, right? We didn't have much time, right? I mean, we sold ourselves as exponent of Agile. We have been practicing Agile, right? And maybe, in the organization in bits and pieces, we're, practicing, but we were not mature by no means, right? So we needed to step up and become mature in the Agile method in a very, very short time, okay? And I wanted to lead that by example, right? Being a leader of the team. So I got myself and then my team extensively trained and coached in Agile so that we can match up to Ericsson's standards. So that went well. And then that's how the journey started. Subsequently, I got opportunity to lead several clients program where we took the team through agile transformation journey, likes of Alcatel Lucent. We did program for Converse, for Microsoft, Itron. Many of these customers we went through the agile journey. And through these engagements, my beliefs in agile value, principle, and methods continued to strengthen. It was a transformation journey, which is still continuing, okay? And I don't think it would ever end. But during the journey, there came a time when I realized that agile is not about Scrum and Kanban. It's not about events. It's not about metrics, but it's really about the mindset, the values and principle, the behavior, the servant leadership in true sense, right? I started relating to what Jim Highsmith has put it. Agile is a way of thinking, not a particular practice. This transformation within me was a defining moment, I would say, right? And that's continuing, and that's how I'm extending my journey as a coach. I want to share my experience, my learning with the community of software professional. When I reflect back, I realize that there are tons of things I did not do right in my career. Perhaps I would have done things differently as a leader if the transformation would have happened sooner. So I want to share that there is not a better teacher than a failure.
So what are some of them in terms of when you say you may not have made a right decision, or either those challenges or problems that you would see yourself? What are some of
Yeah, so I believe in retrospection, right? And I used to do that, as manager, as well as agile leader, as well as a agile coach, right? And they have helped me in identifying the highs and lows, decisions which worked for me, which didn't work, and things like that, right? So let me share a couple of them, and it could be very personal, right? And not something which is out of the box. It could be run of a mill thing, but it's still, let me share, right? I believe setting long-term goals and objective is one area which I could have done differently, right? And this is a more, individual thing, right?
okay
I never set any 3 years or 5 years long-term goal for myself, right? Everything was transactional. Do whatever is needed for the present, or maybe 6 months or things like that. I mean, there were a decision, like I moved from Tata Steel to, JK Technosoft, and then moved to the US, came back to, that was definitely part of a plan, right? In addition to these, there were not many things, I did not set my goals that after 5 years I would reach this point in my career, right? This is what I want to accomplish, right? But I think it's important to have 3 to 5 year goals, and one should work towards that. Whether you would meet those goals or objective fully or partially would depend on several factors, right? Some of them would be outside of your control, right? So you may not be able to achieve. One thing is certain, that looking back, you won't regret that you did not try.
put Safar, what you're saying is just like how organizations that we coach as well as we lead have a short term as well as a long term plan. Are you owning your own career? Do you have that mentor who kind of holds you accountable for your own career? Sometimes we lose track of that, as you rightly put, the transaction. We are so bogged down with the transactions on today and tomorrow, rather than looking at it from holistically.
Yeah. So you may find it interesting or maybe funny, but I have set a 3 years goal and objective this year for myself, and I'm tracking that closely. Better late than never, right?
Actually, I was going to ask you what is your next goal, but maybe too personal. I'm happy that you have set it up now.
Yes, I have set it up, and it's a combination of personal and professional goals, right? Some of the things relate to how I want to manage my health, right? And those kind of things which we tend to neglect. See, we all of us, we professional. Sometime our life becomes unidimensional, right? We work for work, we think work, we sleep with the work, right? Which is not a bad thing, but definitely then you have to compromise in some other places. There are one or two more. Let me share that with you, which is sometime I regret that I did not give adequate time and effort to my entrepreneurial pursuits. Okay. I had one gig for around 12 months, 18 months in the US, which I wound up due to my decision to return to India. So that's okay. But then in India, I got a couple of opportunities which I did not give my 100%. Okay. That was way back in 2001, 2002. And I guess I was not ready to take any undue risk. I always wanted to play safe, right? But that doesn't work, right? So I told you that I had in me the entrepreneurial genes, right? Okay, but I did not nurture them. Okay, so when it comes to risk taking, I will always say no.
Actually, I was thinking the other way around. Peter Drucker says the best entrepreneurs are not the entrepreneurs who are starting fresh, but those who are crafting it within a large organization. And he calls this term called entrepreneur. From the Alcatel-Lucent story that you shared, where you moved from Ericsson and setting up a big organization as well as an initiative and making it a big success. I would beg to differ that you have been an entrepreneur. May not be the classical term of entrepreneur, but taking those big steps and creating a vision, and be it training, be it coaching, be it moving a large organization, transforming it. I think that in itself I find it very enduring as a story, Zafar.
True. I agree. It's just that, perhaps I could sum up in one word that my risk appetite was less. Okay. And sometime, of course, there are several factors, including, your financial factors, your family, and many other things, right? But if possible, one should be able to take, some risk. And let me share, one more thing. This is pretty relevant, right? So I'm happy to share this. The way my career is started and kind of work I got, and I will talk to you in a little bit later, but that resulted in my task orientation becoming very high because I was in dozens of situations where I had to work against very, very demanding timelines. And I'll talk more because they're very interesting and at times funny also. But
Please
so
share them. I think that these are important too. How do you manage so many tasks, right? That's a very good tip to share.
yeah, so my task orientation, both as a individual contributor as well as when I became a manager, that was very high, right? So during my early years as a manager, I was a tough taskmaster. I would always try to picture myself in my team members, okay, and I would evaluate my team member with the same yardstick as I would evaluate myself, right? So as a result, I was not tolerant to delays and failures. Okay. And very often my task orientation would overpower my people orientation, empathy, respectfulness, and be able to take failure into your stride as a leader. Right. It took me a few years as a manager to realize that my approach, though resulted in successful execution of various projects, they were not sustainable in the long run. Okay. And the approach was impacting the motivation and ownership of my team. And then I started changing, my approach. And that's also part of, and the influence of agile transformation. But after I got transformed, I made sure to coach young managers, right, on the people aspect, right, and how facilitative leadership helps in producing high performing team than practicing command and control approach. So definitely, if I could turn the clock back by 10, 15, 20 years, right, I possibly would be a better manager.
Honestly speaking, Zafar, I have had those reflecting moments as well. When I found Agile, I thought it was a breath of fresh air, saying, "Hey, where was this? Why did I make these mistakes long?" In and those are what makes you fall in love with your current work even more, right? Being able to mentor, coach. I feel that we have so many stories to talk about. I know we are going to be out of time quickly. I wanted to talk more about your transformation, this task orientation, as well as the computer generation in the 80s and 90s in the next podcast, if you would be okay to appear as a guest, Zafar?
Sure, it would be a pleasure because I do want to share, whenever I get a chance, what has been my motivators, right? And then people would find it, quite interesting, relate to that. I would love to talk about some of my inspirations, right? Definitely.
I would love to do that. So before we log off, any key takeaways that you want to share?
Sure. Two things that comes to my mind. First and foremost is that this is a testing time for humans across the world, right? We are experiencing unprecedented disruption starting beginning of this year, right? Disruption in every walk of life, how we socialize with friends and families, our buying habits, our work environment, celebrating birthday and anniversary, vacation, everything has changed, right? The spirit of the human race and its resilience is being tested like many times in the past, right? But history has shown that the fighting spirit of the mankind has overcome extreme catastrophes, and the human race has emerged stronger every time. I am confident that together we would beat the menace of COVID 19 once for all, and reconstruction would begin. And I believe that the reconstruction would be led by technology, as the technology has helped us in the last 6 months to cope up with COVID 19, right? I mean, think about it. I shiver to think how we would have dealt with the present times if there was no mobile phone, no internet, no WhatsApp, Zoom, Amazon, and no Swiggy, right? The technology has really helped, right, us in coping. We are working from home. It's like business as usual, right? Amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's such a positive and empowering message, Zafar. It is important to be thankful and grateful for where we are today and be together and have a collective wisdom to overcome the current predicaments. Very well put, Zafar. Thank you. I almost feel goosebumps in my hand.
And I also encourage people, including my kids, to develop a thinking habit, right? We must understand the whys of any ask we are fulfilling, right? We should not do things without understanding. Once we understand the why, we may be able to challenge the status quo, and then we could try to make a difference, right? So that kind of habit of thinking, thinking habits, if people can develop, that would be very helpful. Staying positive and sharing positivity is a very important aspect. Let's not lose any opportunity to thank, compliment people, right, for even small deeds, including friends and family member, right? And last but not the least is that let's not always look for big success. Celebrating small wins as an individual or as a team, okay, is very, very critical, right? In fact, they have been my motivator, small successes.
Very well put. Every success matters and every step matters. And it's important to go one step at a time, but go forward. That's what humanity is all around.
Absolutely.
And tying the whole thing with the technology that we are using on a day-to-day basis for our being thriving. Thank you so much for being a great guest, Zafar. And I'm looking forward to more such conversations.
It's my pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with you, Gayatri. I was able to share some of my professional journey, and I would love to, extend this in some other podcast.
Thank you.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Malavika for promoting the Software People stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.